hot takes?
No, I'm not going to apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up into the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
That's right. It is the Justin Kenner Show presented by Frickers right here on a Tuesday. I hope everybody has had a great start to the week, of course. March starts here. The road to the Final Four starts right here, of course. The first four tips off later on tonight. A couple big ones at the University of Dayton Arena. Of course, I love the first four every single season. Obviously, I think a lot of us do here in the Miami Valley. We look forward to it each and every year, and it tips off officially coming up later on tonight. Of course, tonight, St. Francis and Alabama State. Game one of the first four. That's a 6:40 tip-off. Of course, if you're not going to the arena, that's going to be on True TV, as will the second game featuring the North Carolina Tar Heels and San Diego State. According to our friends over at ESPN Bet, the official sports book of the Justin Kenner Show, by the way, ESPN Bet has North Carolina as a 4.5-point favorite tonight going up against San Diego State. And then for those of you who are, well, basically, degenerates when it comes to gambling, in case you were wondering about the Alabama State line, Alabama State is a 3.5-point favorite over St. Francis. So at least according to Vegas, according to the ESPN Bet line, the spread shows we should be in for a couple close ones later on tonight. I'm looking forward to heading out to the arena. We're only with you here for an hour. The Reds are going to take over for us coming up here at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. So that's coming up around the corner as far as that goes. So with that being said, we talked about it on yesterday's show. We touched on it on Off the Bench earlier today. You know, the first four is an interesting, dilemma for some of these teams. And the thing is, there's so much negativity that people try to throw in the direction, especially of the 16 seed matchups. I don't expect you to know anything about St. Francis. I don't expect you to know much about Alabama State. But the bottom line is a lot of people are sympathizing with these two programs. People feel bad that St. Francis wins their conference tournament. People feel bad that Alabama State wins their conference tournament, and yet they have to square off against one another coming up later on this evening. And the thing is, I don't feel bad for them. People say, well, it's unfortunate. They win their conference tournament, and then they have to play one another to get into the tournament. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sure when you bought the tickets, they weren't cheap. They're not cheap because they're NCAA tournament tickets. When you get to UD Arena tonight, it's not going to say first four NCAA tournament starts on Thursday. No. March starts here. The road to the Final Four starts here with the first four. This is the NCAA tournament. The March Madness branding is all over the court. I'm sure a lot of you have seen on social media. They've kind of decked it all out already. It's ready to rock for tonight. The two 16-seed matchups in the first four, Alabama State and St. Francis tonight, and then, of course, tomorrow, Mount St. Mary's and American University. Those are 4 conference tournament winners, which means when you win your conference tournament, you've officially punched your ticket to the big dance. When you win your conference tournament, you get the auto bid to the NCAA tournament. You don't get the auto bid to the play-in for a chance to get to the NCAA tournament. You're in the NCAA tournament. To sum up, tonight is the NCAA tournament. I think it's a lousy take. If you actually believe that St. Francis and Alabama State are playing tonight to get into the tournament, I don't know what to tell you. Because I tell you right now, the winner of Alabama State and the winner of Alabama State and St. Francis goes on to get their ass whooped by Auburn. No offense to those guys. No offense to St. Francis and Alabama. But that's what I love about it. If you think about it, the two 16-seed matchups right now, okay, Alabama State, St. Francis. Let's say that they didn't qualify for the first four, and they're put on that 16 line, and they know they're playing Auburn right off the bat, or they get paired up with Duke. Houston's a 1 seed, Florida's a 1 seed. Can you imagine being St. Francis and just automatically, congratulations, you win your conference tournament, now go play Duke? At the very least, St. Francis wins their conference tournament. Now they get to go play Alabama State. They get to play Alabama State at the University of Dayton Arena. It's going to be thousands and thousands of people there. It's on the March Madness branded floor. And the best part is it's a standalone game. The only NCAA tournament game that'll be airing tonight at 6:40 will be St. Francis and Alabama State. So you get the standalone game. Everyone in the country that is tuning into the NCAA tournament is watching your two teams and your two teams only. The winner gets, they get that first round money. You get that NCAA tournament win money. All right. Like you literally make your school and your conference money when you win later on tonight as the 16 seeds. So now you get to play in an NCAA tournament game and a game that you have a chance to win. And then you could go on to play Auburn or Duke or one of the 1 seeds. The winner of tonight will go on to play Auburn, by the way. So I opened up the show today not to be so, Alabama State, St. Francis heavy, but I'm excited for that matchup tonight because I promise you, just like I said yesterday, when you go, you're going to see North Carolina fans tonight, San Diego State fans tonight. They're excited. They love their team. There's passion there. But those are two programs that expect to be in the NCAA tournament. Although North Carolina fans might be a little surprised that they're in this year's NCAA tournament. It's not like when they get to the tournament, that's not what they hang their hat on. It's not just, oh, well, as long as we get to the tournament, that's all that matters. They need to do something when they get to the tournament. But the bottom line is they expect to be here, which means it's not as much of a special occasion to them as what it is to a St. Francis or an Alabama State. I can't wait for that 16 seed matchup tonight because you get two programs that the only way they can ever go dancing is to win their conference tournament. You got to win a tournament to get into the tournament. That's ridiculous, but that's just the reality of college basketball when you're a mid-major program. By the way, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. I would much rather be a 16 seed. I feel bad. Like, let's go look at this. So Houston is taking on Southern Illinois University Edwardsville in a 1-16 matchup. SIU Edwardsville, you win your conference tournament. Congratulations. Go get beat up by Houston. I think if you ask the, SIU Edwardsville players, would you rather go right directly to playing Houston, or would you rather play in Alabama State or someone along those lines in a 16-16 with the chance to win an NCAA tournament game? I think those kids are going to want to play a team that's similar to them to give them a chance to say that, hey, we won an NCAA tournament game when we were in school. Wright State won their first NCAA tournament game in program history a few years ago when they faced Bryant at UD Arena. They took care of business against Bryant. They won their first tournament game in program history. They got paid. The Horizon League gets paid. They made history, and then they got to go on to take on Arizona, and they were competitive against Arizona. But the bottom line is had Wright State just come up as a 16 seed going directly to the West Coast to take on Arizona, it still would have been special. It still would have been great. You're in the NCAA tournament, but you're going to basically just get beat by Arizona and call it a season. Playing Bryant gave Wright State an opportunity to play an extra game, win a game, and go on a tournament run, theoretically, in that first week. And that's what they did. All right. So one more time, coming up later on tonight, University of Dayton Arena, of course, St. Francis, Alabama State, 6:40 the tip-off. Alabama State, the 3.5-point favorite. And then 9:10 p.m. later on tonight, North Carolina, San Diego State. It's a late one, but that'll be game 2. How about that? North Carolina, the Tar Heels. I know they had some travel issues getting here, but they did find a way to get here. They'll be in action coming up later on tonight. And then tomorrow night at UD Arena, of course, Mount St. Mary's taking on American University, a 6:40 tip-off as well. And then Xavier and Texas will be the 9:10 tip-off. They do have lines out for that already. American University, for you degenerates out there, are 2.5-point favorites over Mount St. Mary's. And then Xavier and Texas. Xavier is a 3.5-point favorite. There you go. But yes, the tournament finally here. The other debate we got into earlier today, for instance, this is my bracket for those of you watching on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. It is not filled out. All right. But Cav always throws it on my desk, and he always gets on me because everyone else, they have theirs pinned up on the board out there. And they used to get on me because I used to say, well, you have till Thursday at noon to get the bracket in. But the bottom line is that's not how it works. The NCAA tournament tips off tonight. Why people have this rule of you don't have to turn it in until Thursday is beyond me. But it's not just like work rules, like even the ESPN app and some of the other, the whatever, you use to submit your brackets with your phone or whatever. A lot of those tell you have till Thursday to get those brackets submitted. It's wild. The tournament tips off tonight. Like if you think about Major League Baseball and the NBA, the NFL, they have wild card games. Well, the NBA is a little different now. But the NFL wild card weekend is technically an additional weekend that was added for extra teams so they could play their way into the first round of the playoffs. We don't call Wild Card Weekend the first round of the playoffs. We call Wild Card Weekend Wild Card Weekend. When teams only get to the wild card, we don't say, oh, yeah, playoff team. We say, oh, yeah, they were a wild card team that year. We give them that same treatment that we do first four teams. Oh, yeah, Wright State, they were a first four team a few years ago. By the way, 10 years ago today, Dayton and Boise played at the UD Arena. That popped up in my memories today on Facebook. But, yeah, you're a first four team. You're a wild card team. But the NFL wild card game is a playoff game. Major League Baseball's Major League Baseball's Wild Card Weekend is part of the playoffs. It's not, oh man, the regular season's done. We have Wild Card Weekend and then the playoffs start. No, Wild Card Weekend is a part of the playoffs. First four is a part of the NCAA tournament. I don't get that at all. Get your brackets filled out by tonight. The tournament tips off tonight. St. Francis, Alabama State. That's the tournament. It tips off tonight, 6:40. North Carolina, San Diego State. That's the NCAA tournament. You mean to tell me that you have North Carolina, San Diego State playing tonight, and tomorrow you have Texas and Xavier playing tonight, and you want to convince me that those types of programs who are in action tonight, I promise you, North Carolina, the winner of one of those games is going to win a tournament game or two. They matter. You have to have them on your schedule. You have to have them on your bracket. Get those filled out early. All right. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, of course. Step away for a few moments. So the Dayton Flyers will be in action coming up tomorrow night. All right. They'll be in action in the NIT. Of course, they are the 1 seed in the NIT, but they have to play on the road because UD Arena, of course, is being used for the first four this week and for the boys OHSAA state tournament. If UD is fortunate enough to get to the third round, they then would be able to host a game next week if they are still in the tournament. But keep that in mind. They're the 1 seed. They are technically the home team, even though they're on the road at Florida Atlantic. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, the tip-off. Dayton is a 1.5-point favorite, according to our friends at ESPN Bet. I do want to talk about that with the first four in town. We're going to step away for a few moments. Okay? We're going to step away for a few moments. With the first four in town, I see so many Dayton fans pissed off at the, administration, if that's what you're going to call it, for Dayton Athletics. It's like that they care more about the OHSAA state tournament, that they care more about the first four than about hosting tournament games for their own team. Look, I always love a good excuse to, criticize University of Dayton and to kind of humble them a little bit. I think they're a little too snooty for me, if you ask me. So I always love a reason to kind of humble them a bit if I have the opportunity. This isn't one of them. Why are fans mad that Dayton is hosting the first four and hosting the OHSAA Boys State Championships? If you're one of those people, what is wrong with you? We'll get to that coming up. Plus, Anthony Grant in the postgame of the A10 tournament over the weekend was asked a couple interesting questions. David Jablonski, great job covering the Flyers. I know, I made a tweet about a month ago that got him a little upset with me, but I've definitely never said he's a bad reporter. I think the guy's a fantastic reporter, and I think that he covers the Flyers about as well as any other beat writer out there covering their team. I would love for any of my teams to have a reporter cover my team the way he does. But he asked a couple interesting questions to Anthony Grant in the postgame after the A10 tournament. And some of the responses from AG were very interesting. Anthony Grant was asked to kind of reflect on this past season. His response was interesting. But the question that I love the most and the answer that I hate the most is coming up. I'll give you the question, and we'll have the answer for you coming up. But David Jablonski asked Anthony Grant, your fan base is getting a little impatient. It's 8 years. They did make the tournament last year. But do you feel like you're doing enough? That's a great question by David Jablonski. He asked Anthony Grant, do you believe you have done enough? And I'm here to tell you, if you're an Anthony Grant apologist, how you could hear his answer and still be an Anthony Grant apologist is beyond me. We'll get to that when we come back. More of the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers when we return. All right, and we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits, of course. Make sure you stop on out at your local neighborhood Frickers for their frickin' lunch combos for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo features many options, such as the frickin' chicken chunks, cheeseburgers, the charbroiled chicken wrap, and the fried chicken wrap. You also get a side and a drink, all for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo is available Monday through Friday between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Dine in or carry out. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. We welcome you back again, the Justin Kinner Show. Open up talking college basketball, the first four. If you get your brackets, if you're filling your brackets out, don't wait till Thursday to get it done. The tournament tips off tonight. I don't get that. I have no clue why we wait till Thursday. These are NCAA tournament games. If North Carolina wins tonight, I like their chances against Ole Miss in the next round. I do. I really do. So, like, this idea that you just let tonight's game happen before you pick the next one, I'm not a fan of that. Get your brackets turned in time. That's all. That's all. Is what it is. So we talked about Dayton yesterday. Obviously, they're just continuing to not live up to expectations, and I'm going to continue to highlight that. I don't care. You can call me a hater all you want, but the one thing about Dayton is it'd be one thing if you have a coach that would come out and show accountability upon him and his coaching staff's failures and say, yeah, we've dropped the ball. We have not done enough to help this team win. You can't get to the NCAA tournament one time in 8 years and truly believe that you've done everything that you can. Now you're probably saying, well, who said that? When did Anthony Grant say that? Well, that's a great question. It's a fantastic question. It's such a good question that I have the answer for you. First reaction, of course, Dayton losing over the weekend in the A-10 tournament. Of course, it's time to wrap up the season. David Jablonski in the postgame asked Anthony Grant just to kind of, now that the season has come and gone, to reflect on it a little bit, what happened. Here's Anthony Grant in the postgame with David Jablonski, who covers the team for Dayton Daily News. Take a listen.
Anthony, where would you sum up just the season? You guys fell short of your goals.
Yeah, that's a great question, David. Honestly, I got to reflect. I mean, honestly, if I'm being dead honest with you, I'm torn between whether this was a team that overachieved or underachieved. To be honest with you, we've been through a lot. It's been the best of times and the worst of times in terms of what this team has had to go through and how we've kind of had to manufacture some things, and so a lot of really good stuff, but then also some things that we had to overcome that were self-inflicted stuff, that kind of put us in a little bit of a hole. So I think if I'm summing it up, I probably have to reserve that until I have more time to kind of reflect and see where things end up.
What do you mean where things end up? The season ended up with you in the NIT, not in the NCAA tournament, after you went 2-2 against teams in the top 10 back in November and December, and you had at-large hopes that you choked away. Anthony Grant, let me make it simple for you. Well, you reflect, and you need time to reflect and figure it out. By the way, what kind of statement is that? We don't know whether we underachieved or overachieved. Yeah, that's overachieving. Missing the tournament for the sixth time in 8 years, technically seventh time in 8 years. That's overachieving. No. It's very simple. It is a tournament or bust program. Not just by me. That's what your athletic director said. That's why you get paid millions of dollars, Coach Grant. You get paid more than anyone else in the conference. That's what you didn't overachieve by any means. I mean, if Coach Grant is sitting at home truly trying to figure out, man, did we overachieve or underachieve? You underachieve, sir. You've underachieved since the day you took the job. You had one outlier season in 2020 thanks to having an NBA lottery pick in Obi Toppin. And then coincidentally enough, the next time you truly made the NCAA tournament, it's because you had an NBA first rounder in DeRon Holmes. And unless there's another NBA player that's magically going to drop in your lap, this team will continue to underachieve because the coaching staff is not good enough to overcome, or the talent is not good enough to overcome the coaching, in my opinion. But is the coaching the problem? Because a lot of Flyer fans who are out on Anthony Grant truly believe that he is the problem, but does he believe that? Does he think that he's the problem? Does he think that there's more that he could do? That's the question I have. And that's the question that, well, David Jablonski had for Anthony Grant as well. A follow-up question in the postgame asked Anthony Grant, I'll basically just sum up. Do you think you've done enough, Anthony Grant? Take a listen to the question and the answer.
In 8 seasons now, you know your fan base. They are hungry.
Yeah.
You got to the tournament last year, but is what you've done, is it enough?
That's not for me to decide. I mean, I can tell you I give everything I have to it, and I feel like, the group we had, that it was important to them, and I'm disappointed.
Wait, what? Do you feel like it's been enough? Well, I've given it all I have, says Anthony Grant. One more time, listen to this. Again, this is a coach that continuously recruits some of the best talent in the country, sends guys to the league, Tumani Kamara, Obi Toppin, Deron Holmes, okay? Recruits very good players. They do very well in November. They compete with teams that theoretically they shouldn't, that they're scrappy underdogs in, and then the teams that they lose to the teams they shouldn't, and then they compete with the teams that they shouldn't. They're not prepared when they get to A10 play. It's a one-bid league, and they finished third in a one-bid league, and they couldn't even win a conference tournament game to advance to the cup. Do you think you've done enough, Anthony Grant? And he says, well, I give it my all. Listen one more time. This is a ridiculous answer.
In 8 seasons now, you know your fan base. They are hungry.
Yeah.
You got to the tournament last year, but is what you've done, is it enough?
That's not for me to decide. I can tell you I give everything I have to it.
Give more.
And I feel like, the group we had, that it was important to them.
It should be. That's a pointless comment.
I'm disappointed.
We all are.
I'm disappointed.
We all are. I felt like we had a group that it meant something to them. That's like saying humans need air to live. Like, duh. Of course it's important to them. Like, why do you have to tell us? Like, what does that even mean? People do that stuff all the time. Like, man, they need to draft him. He's a winner. He wants to win, as opposed to all the other players who want to lose. Like, some of these comments are so silly and ridiculous. Man, that group, it meant something to them. It means something to every group. Every team that's in the NCAA tournament right now, it means something to them. Every team that missed the tournament, it meant something to them too. It's just whether or not you're good enough to get the job done. And that was very deflective. There was no accountability in there whatsoever from Anthony Grant. Do you believe you've done enough, was the question by David Jablonski. I love the question. It's point blank. It's to the point. It's a coach that is continuously underachieved, coaching for a program that continuously pumps its chest, acting as if they are better and bigger than something that they're not. UD is not as big of a program as they think that they are. Not if you continue to bring Anthony Grant back and just settle for the status quo. And just win close to 20 games a year. Make things interesting in November, December. Get a couple nice recruits here and there. That's all that matters. Is that Dayton Flyer basketball? I miss Archie. I don't know if I think I said that yesterday's show too. I miss Archie Miller. Archie Miller, there's not many people, when people bring up Anthony, he's such a nice guy. He's such a great person. That's super. That's swell. Everyone should be a great person. Like, you shouldn't have to tell me that. I'm just assuming that. I need him to be a great basketball coach. And right now, this team just does nothing but underachieve. And then when there's a time for the coach to say, I need to be better, we need to be better, there's so many things that we could be doing differently. He says, well, I've given it all I have. I've done everything I can. That's the guy leading this team. No wonder this team chokes down the stretch, because they feel like they're probably playing for a guy that, well, guys, I don't know what you want me to say. I've done everything I can. Yeah, I'll pass on that mentality. They're a 1.5-point favorite tomorrow night, taking on Florida Atlantic on the road. If they win, they won't be able to play the second round game at UD Arena, but if they win that one, they'll get to the third. Don't worry. You've seen the last of the Flyers at UD Arena. They're not coming back. They're not coming back. You can call me a hater all you want. I just don't. I'm not an Anthony Grant guy. I'm tired. It's the same story every year. It's the same failure every year, and it's the same lack of accountability every year. And by the way, earlier when he said we've overcome so many obstacles, what obstacles? Why is every year there's something that this team's overcoming? Why is there always just something that is just out to? Why is this team a victim in every single aspect of life? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, that's what I loved about Archie Miller teams. Archie Miller teams, they were never the victim of anything. They were Archie Miller was like a pit bull. That team had a pit bull mentality. You had great people, you had great players, great teammates, great basketball players who made great plays at the right times, at the biggest moments. Oh, but Archie, Archie Miller, he's a little rough around the edges. He's tough to get along with. I don't care. I'm not going to have a beer with Archie Miller. I just want to celebrate in March. Archie Miller may not have worked out at Indiana. He's obviously not doing well at Rhode Island where he's at right now, but Archie Miller worked at Dayton. Anthony Grant. What do you say to those fans who, have you done enough? Well, I've done everything I can. What's his response? Absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous if you ask me at the end of the day. Flyer fans, so many of you, Anthony Grant's such a great person. Well, what about a basketball coach? Well, he's a great basketball coach too. Explain. Isn't the point of Dayton Flyers basketball to be playing in March? To win the A-10? To win the A-10 tournament? Where is this? Like, I don't get the mindset. You guys act as if this program is bigger than the NIT. You guys have this mindset. We're too good for the NIT. We're too good for the CBI. We're too good for the Crown tournament in Las Vegas. You guys act like you're above everything. And you act like the NCAA tournament, that's where you belong. That's where you want to be, just like all mid-majors want to be there. But sometimes you're just not good enough as a program to be a consistent NCAA tournament team. And under Anthony Grant, you're just not. So why is it that the one tournament that you're the best at is the one tournament you think you're too good for? And the one tournament that you think where you belong is the one that you're definitely not good enough for. You're not good enough to make the NCAA tournament. You haven't been for a long time. NIT, 4 or 5 different invites since he's taken over? You are an NIT team. In fact, get your tickets next year for the NIT would be my guess. Anyways, rant over. My apologies. But when I heard that clip of him not taking accountability and basically just saying, I've done everything I can, well, that sounds very dismissive and putting it on the players at that point, blaming the players. Well, I've done everything I can, so I don't know what you guys, you guys got to do something. We'll see. All right. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Coming up this Thursday, Centerville location. The Frickers Centerville location is where we will be for the day one of the NCAA tournament, the first round games. Can't wait. 3 to 5, we'll be doing the show live on location in Centerville at Frickers. We'll have more information as we get closer to Thursday. Really excited about that. We'll have some giveaways, food and drink specials, all of that fun stuff. So come on out. Let Frickers in Centerville with us be the game day headquarters for you, where you go kind of set up shop and just watch sun up to sundown basketball. I can't wait for the first round games coming up on Thursday. All right, we'll transition over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, there is something that's not being this T. Higgins and Jamar Chase deal. It's not being talked about enough. There was a dynamic of the negotiation that is not being focused on enough. And I think it's going to be a new trend that could potentially take over football, could potentially take over sports. And it's something that Jacob brought to my attention earlier today that he actually kind of stumped me on, because he got me on this. Like, there is something that Jamar Chase and his agent did that really forced the Bengals into signing T. Higgins. They did not have a choice to sign T. Higgins, and it's not for the reasons that you think. We'll discuss more in depth when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. Frickers in Centerville is where Kevin Nash and I will be coming up this Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. It'll be, of course, the day of the first round of the NCAA tournament, and that's always the best day. I mean, Thursday, Friday are my two favorite days of the tournament. Just, again, a lot of people take off work on those days. If you're taking off work and looking for a spot to go watch the games, come hang out with us. We're going to be at the Frickers location in Centerville. We'll be setting up shop there for the day and then be on the air live from 3 to 5 doing this show on location. We partnered up with Frickers this year. They joined our show as a sponsor and are big fans of the show and want to make sure that we don't just do the show in studio every day, that we take the show out on the road. And we thought there'd be no better day than the first day of the NCAA tournament to the first round, the first full day. To get the show out there, and that's what we're going to do coming up this Thursday at Frickers in Centerville. So keep that in mind as far as that's concerned. Who's going to be cutting down the nets this year? Get in on all of the tournament action at ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Go from tracking the latest upsets to placing bets in just a few taps. All tournament long, new customers can get $100 in bonus bets when you make your first $10 wager. Download the ESPN Bet Sportsbook app and sign up with promo code Radio100 to get started today. Must be 21 and older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. NCAA First Four action coming up here later on tonight. University of Dayton Arena, of course, looking forward to that. Again, St. Francis and Alabama State, 6:40 the tip-off at UD Arena, and then followed by that will be Game 2, North Carolina and San Diego State. Again, the winner of the St. Francis and Alabama State matchup and the 2-16s, they will go on to face 1 seed Auburn coming up later on this week. And then, of course, the winner of North Carolina and San Diego State will go on to take on Ole Miss in the first round coming up later on this week as well. So keep that in mind. As far as the games go for tomorrow at UD Arena, I'm looking forward to that. Mount St. Mary's, American University, 6:40 the tip-off there. And then Xavier and Texas will square off and go head-to-head. The winner of the Xavier-Texas matchup will go on to face 6-seeded Illinois out of the Big Ten later on this week as well. So keep in mind all that happening tonight and tomorrow night. First round tips off on Thursday. Good stuff right there. Spent a lot of time yesterday on the Cincinnati Bengals and T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and that deal getting done. And obviously I was a little critical of it, and a lot of you guys chalk it up to me just being a hater. That's fine. I look, to be less blunt today, because I don't feel like always just getting into it with Bengals fans. Shout out to my guy Bob Love, who called in yesterday. I always love when he calls in getting all fired up, of course, but I appreciate the listeners. I appreciate Bengals fans, even though I poke fun at you a little bit. But I'm a Browns fan. I have to find my enjoyment somewhere, and it doesn't come on Sundays in the fall. So there you have it. But I think the only thing, like, getting the extension done with T. Higgins was huge for a lot of reasons, but the reason that I would be concerned as a Bengals fan is this, and this isn't an opinion, this is a fact. Like, you got to realize there is not a team out there that has pumped in more money to 2 wide receivers and a quarterback than the Cincinnati Bengals. And you could say, well, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean that it can't work. For a well-run organization, I would agree with you. The problem is I don't think you have a very well-run organization, and that's not a shot. That's just the reality of it. And I think that even the most diehard Bengals fan, even if you don't want to agree with me because it's me, you agree with me that you're not a fan of a well-run organization. That Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins have been a Band-Aid for a lot of flaws on this team, a team that's missed the playoffs the last 2 years. Yes, Joe Burrow injured 2 years ago, but the offense was still good enough to win 9 games that year, still missed the playoffs. Joe Burrow fully healthy last year with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who missed a few games. However, still won only 9 games, still missed the playoffs. One of the worst defenses in the league, one of those run games in the league. So to say that you trust the organization with this decision, okay, cool. A lot of you are doing this whole, you said there's no way that they could do it. I said there's no way that they could do it because they had so many deficiencies and flaws that why would you do it? I guess I could have rephrased the question is, why would you, when you have so many holes on defense, you can't run the football, your offensive line stinks, why would you limit and cut your resources in half by paying those 3 when you have so many other flaws? Well, the Eagles do it. The Eagles have barely any blemishes, if any. The Eagles could pay Saquon Barkley the money that they pay him, $20+ million a year, because they don't have any holes on defense. and their quarterback might be their weak link, and he just led them to their second Super Bowl appearance and won their first Super Bowl, ending the dynasty run of the Kansas City Chiefs just a month ago. The Bengals have too many holes to do what they did. However, could it work? Yes. But here's what the T. Higgins deal did. It put the Bengals in a position where they have to be perfect moving forward. They have to hit on every draft pick, and they have to hit on every free agent. They can't miss. They've missed on so many draft picks in recent drafts. They've missed on so many free agents in recent signings. Obviously, Sam Hubbard, and you look at Bell, and you look at guys like that just have gotten older and not worked. Obviously, bringing Bell back is my point. You ended up bringing Bell back. It just hasn't worked, right? Like, Hubbard, you obviously didn't bring back. You bring Bell back, it didn't work. You bring in Geno Stone, it didn't work, although he's still there. You brought in Sheldon Rankins, didn't work. Just a lot of these guys you're bringing in don't work, and that's a problem. Because the Eagles, when you say, well, look, they pay all this money to certain position groups, yeah, and when they sign free agents, they work, and when they draft guys, they work. Doesn't work in Cincinnati. But I want to be complimentary here about this next part. It's going to sound like I'm taking a shot, but you guys are I've said before, and Keith Byers, and I've talked to a couple NFL players that have agreed with me on this. When it comes to your fan base, Bengals fans, I think you are more of Joe Burrow fans than you are Bengals fans. I think that you are a Joe Burrow fan more than you are a Bengal fan. I've been a Bengals fan my whole life. I don't care. You are a bigger Joe Burrow fan than you are a Bengals fan. Because that guy could do no wrong. That guy does everything in your eyes. You think he can you think that he is the perfect quarterback, the quarterback with no Super Bowl, with no MVPs. You know what I mean? Like missed the playoffs 2 straight years. Josh Allen wins an MVP. We just watched Jalen Hurts win an MVP, or a Super Bowl MVP in a Super Bowl. Josh Allen wins an MVP. You said Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. See, it sounds like I'm being mean again. I'm just not a Joe Burrow guy. I can't get on board like you guys do. But he's getting so much credit for this Jamar Chase and T. Higgins thing, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's making me sick, to be honest with you. Joe Burrow is not responsible for why Jamar Chase and T. Higgins got paid. He's just not. They're responsible for why Joe Burrow got paid. I mean, it must be nice to be Joe Burrow to have 2 number 1 wide receivers to throw the football to. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Good for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the biggest winner yesterday. But those two are very good big winners too, because of who's throwing them the football. It works out pretty well for both. But Joe Burrow, I'm not going to give him credit for T. Higgins remaining in Cincinnati, and the same thing with Jamar Chase, and here's why. Did you guys read more about what went into the negotiations with Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals? Jamar Chase, I view very differently. There was a while where I'm like, I think he's too much about himself. I think he is a diva wide receiver, and he is. I think he's a very selfish, arrogant wide receiver. I thought that. T. Higgins is a Cincinnati Bengal right now because of his work ethic and his talent and skill and what he means to the city of Cincinnati. But he's a Bengal, and it has nothing to do with Joe Burrow. I truly believe the Bengals are ready to move on from T. Higgins. And I think it would have been the right decision to move on from T. Higgins. Whether you like it or not, it's just true. The Bengals, they had a chance to prove that they were a big boy organization by not caving to Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow's not who they caved to on this. I'm a big Jamar Chase fan now, based on what I read and heard about the negotiations, where Jamar Chase and his agent risked their future in Cincinnati and tied theirself to T. Higgins. They told the front office of the Bengals, T. Higgins gets an extension or none of us get an extension. T. Higgins is a Bengal because of Jamar Chase. That's it. Not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow went and he did his crybaby tour on the media stuff, and that wasn't enough because they were willing to let T go. There's a reason that T. Higgins tweeted out Cap and that he was pissed off and upset with the front office because they were not oohing and awing him to stay in Cincinnati. They were ready to tag him, force him to play on the tag for $26.5 million this upcoming season and probably call it a run. They would have got a 3rd-round compensatory pick had he walked next year. They would have got a 3rd-rounder for him, technically. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins sharing an agent is this storyline, I think, is going to blossom into something bigger down the road, not just for the Bengals, but for other teams. I have to go look. I haven't done it yet. Go pay attention to the play. We're going to do this on Off the Bench tomorrow. Go look at the agents and the players that they represent and how many of those players are on the same team that share an agent. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins did not share an agent originally. T. Higgins cut his old agent, got new representation, and was represented by the same agent that Jamar Chase is. And Jamar Chase's agent and T. Higgins' agent was able to go into business for both of them together and basically make them a combo package. You can't have one without the other. T. Higgins is not a Bengal because of Joe Burrow. T. Higgins is a Bengal because of Jamar Chase. And I think that's really cool because Jamar Chase knew he was going to get his 41 mil. He knew he was going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. He knew he was going to get the bag. He didn't have to go to bat for T. Higgins. He could have just said, all right, I got mine, T. Hopefully we're still teammates moving forward, but me and Joe are going to go be rich over here. And you hang out over here in the poverty section, I guess. Because, a guy that made $22.5 million last year is so poor. The guy that would have played on the $26.5 million franchise tag this year was poor, but he's not 40 mil, 55 mil a year rich like those other two. But he got taken care of very well. I thought that was a really cool story. In all seriousness, I know you're used to me taking shots at your team and Jamar Chase, but Jamar Chase could have went in all for him and himself only, and he strong-armed that front office. People say, well, there's no way Jamar Chase, and I originally said, well, Jamar Chase was going to sign that deal no matter what, whether they said they would bring him back or not. Would he have? Jamar Chase could have got $40 million anywhere. Oh, yeah, but he wouldn't have had Joe Burrow throwing in the football. Jamar Chase is the talent. Like, look at Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, I think, and to be honest, this is not a hate or take. If I had to pick Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, he puts up numbers regardless of who's throwing him the football. I've only seen Jamar Chase be great when Joe Burrow's throwing him the football, so I'll leave it at that. That's not a mean take. It's just the reality of what we've seen to this point. But good for Jamar Chase, man. Good for T. Higgins. But I thought that was very cool. Jamar, all he needed to focus on was him and himself, the way that Joe Burrow focused on him and himself, and that's not a bad thing. But Jamar Chase, in the midst of all the craziness going on with the negotiation, said, it's me and T or none of us. I thought that was pretty neat. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. That does wrap it up for us. We do have Reds baseball coming up next. We'll be right back at it again tomorrow. First four tonight. Go to the arena. Enjoy yourselves. The NCAA tournament, it's finally here. The madness is finally here. How about that? Red spring training action coming up next. Opening day a week from Thursday. How about that? We're getting closer and closer to that as well. Until tomorrow, this has been the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.